as Lady Franklin's Lament. Eventually, the search
I'm
party
missing
found
something
some
here,
sign of the
but I
expedition
don't know what.
when in 1850 on Beechy
This is the
Island,
only
they
thing I
found
can
several
find to
tin
do.
cans,
Dragging
what
doesn't do
looked to be the
anything.
remnant of a camp, as well as 3 graves buried in the ice. The names on the
Ice
headstones were that of
graves.
3 members
If I remember
of the
correctly, didn't they
expedition,
retrieve the
spaced out
body
over the course
from,
of several months. It
like,
wasn't
in
uncommon
modern,
for
like,
people to get
recent
out in the
decades? Didn't
middle
they
of the
retrieve a
cold
body from the
and
Franklin
die of
expedition?
pneumonia or tuberculosis, so this didn't prove that the entire crew had met a tragic end, and as a matter of fact, it shows that they were in enough state that they could still bury their dead. However, the dates on the tombstone indicated that they were buried in 1845, meaning that this had to occur in the first several months of the expedition. Furthermore, in 1851, an iceberg began to be spotted off the coast of Greenland that had 2 ships stuck in the ice of the iceberg itself. Now, it turned out later that these were actually 2 abandoned whaling ships, but stories of seeing
2
2
abandoned whaling
giant
ships,
ships
just
frozen
random.
in ice didn't help quell any of the fears back home. In
Tuberculosis.
1852, a
What?
captain by the name of
What?
Edward Belcher managed to get trapped in
The
the
fuck does
ice
that
while
mean?
looking for the Franklin expedition, and a total of 4 ships were lost and had to be abandoned during this voyage.
Okay, hold on.
This isn't necessarily related to the story,
Let me...
but
Wrong
one of
thing.
those ships was called the HMS Resolute,
Okay.
which was recovered by Americans several years
Need
later.
a hint? I do need a
and
hint,
as
Beats. If
sort
you know
of
where the
gift,
orb goes,
America
I'm a little
returned
stuck.
that ship to Britain, to which Britain
Then-
then made several desks out of the wood of the ship, and one of those desks, called the Resolute desk,
Well, yeah, I know
was
map,
gifted
but...
to President Hayes and still sits in the Oval Office to this day. Just fun note. There's a lot of reports that Belcher was very hasty
sure.
and made a lot of bad decisions during the voyage,
Oh,
and
I have
that's
to-
what led
something
to
on
losing
it?
4 ships. However, this was enough to
doesn't
steer
let
the
me
British
interact on
government
it.
away from looking for the crew after so much
Is
cost
it,
had
is
already
it
been
the,
accrued.
this thing?
And officially, the expedition was declared lost and the crew dead on March the 31st of
Or is it this thing?
1854. The next month, on April the 21st of 1854, a man by the name of John Ray, who was from Britain but was currently living with the Inuit people in Canada, said that he came into contact with a few natives who said that they had found signs of the Franklin expedition. See, at this point, no one had any idea what happened to the expedition, and this was the first clue of their whereabouts since the 1845 campsite. While talking to local natives, John Ray said
I think you
that
need
they
to tell
came
me, because I'm
across
not
a campsite of
understanding.
some 35
Like, I'm not
to
finding any
40 men
ports.
who were all wasted away and dead.
When'd
Specifically
you post that,
near
Jay?
the southernmost point of King William Island, near the opening of the Back River at northern Canada.
Oh,
The
we got an ad
natives
break.
had several
Uh-oh.
items
And
to
Beats
prove
doesn't
that
have a
their
sub.
story
Oh,
was
shit.
true,
I guess we're waiting. That's okay,
including
though. Because
silverware
I'm going to
with
pause this. I'll bring the fishing game up for y'all. And we'll be... Don't worry, just being a weirdo. Just kind of weird. Just kind of weird posting the percentage thing. It's a little weird. A little weird. Which mod? Can I get a mod check? Mod check, mod check. Besides Carrie, Carrie, you better be getting ready to rest. Hi, Sunstar. Sunstar, can I get a pinned message with the Ko-fi link? Green circle? There isn't a green circle. I don't see a green circle. Is it this thing on top that's orange? Floating map. What? Can I go to my desk? Oh, okay. Ah. Oh, okay. Hmm. Here we go. That's why it was blinking. And then there's the thing that we saw before. Oh, and then it even has a hologram. Amazing. Waiting for something else. There we go. All right. Oh, wow. All of the symboled names of the planets. You showed the helmet going through there? Oh. Oh, can I just click the planets? Oh, I see. Okay. Hmm. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh, God. I guess that's me getting all of those. Jupiter. Okay. Oh. I think I get it. Ish? Okay, so it seems like every single one has 4. Okay. And we are good. Let me go back to, let's put the fishing game away. And back to more Goon, more Franklin,
On it,
more
as
horrible
well
things
as
happening
framed
to
pictures of the captains
old
themselves.
people.
The most horrific part of the story is that the hunting party that came across this campsite said several of the bodies were mutilated and cut up, and due to human remains being in the fireplace, it was suggested that the final survivors had to resort to cannibalism. John Ray collected several more testimonies and then brought his findings back to Britain. This coincided with an unrelated search that happened in 1855, in which a crew said that they found a piece of wood located on King William Island that had Erebus.
Hold on, I'm working on it. What's up?
And another piece of wood
What's
that
up,
had
Sunstar?
Mr.
Oi.
Stanley carved into it. Mr. Stanley being the name of the
The
doctor
new coat of paint.
the Erebus.
That good enough? That's perfect,
John Ray's
Sunstar.
findings
That's
were
perfect.
published in papers across England, and people lost their minds.
Okay, which
Primarily
ones were we
at the
missing?
suggestion of cannibalism. See, at the time, concepts of people being pushed to the brink and the horrors of survival and things like that weren't really commonplace in people's mindset, and cannibalism was just seen as the ultimate act of evil. So the people who left 10 years earlier as the superheroes aboard their rocket ship off into the Great White Wonder were now being considered the worst of the worst. Several people just simply didn't accept the information, Charles Dickens being one of them, saying that he didn't use the word savages, but he heavily implied savages of the North just made it up because they don't understand British dignity. Either way, Lady Franklin was determined now more than ever to find some evidence of what happened to her
Oh, do I only
husband
have to
and
flip
his
the
crew.
specific ones,
However,
I think?
as mentioned
Okay, so
earlier,
3.
the government wasn't having it, so she used her own money to commission an expedition all by herself.
Which is the one that's there.
Commission
So these can all be
sailors to go
flipped
do it
back.
all by themselves. She didn't go all by herself, although that would be kind of neat. On July the 2nd of 1857,
And then
a ship known
the one
as
that looks like a
Fox
4, 2,
set
3, and
sail
4.
to try to find some evidence of the Franklin crew. And sure enough, on the northern shore of King William Island, the first evidence of the expedition
The
was
one's
found.
the only one that needs to not
Inside
be
of a
marked.
cairn, which is essentially a pile of rocks, in a box was the only known note to come from this entire voyage. I'll explain what the note was
And
whenever
then none
I
of them.
get to the specifics of what happened to the crew, but also discovered nearby was a skeleton wearing a work uniform of someone aboard the Erebus. Furthermore, on the western shore of King William Island,
Okay.
they found a lifeboat of the Terror, which was full of
As in Earth
unneeded
is
supplies
just the
like
circle.
soap and combs and brushes and silverware and things that wouldn't be needed for walking across the island, as well as 2 more skeletons laying within the lifeboat. There was another man named Charles Francis Hall who also lived among the Inuit people who was determined to find some evidence of the expedition.
Okay.
From 1860 to 1869, he explored the entire
2
area
and
of
3.
King William's Island and the Back River of northern Canada, while also interviewing local natives to try to see if he could piece together what happened. Hall found various graves all across his journey and
None.
took hundreds of testimonies from those he came across. Over the years, the testimonies dwindled from seeing large groups of men walking across the island all the way down to just 2 in 1858. So with the information that all of the people
That's
I
not
just
what I'm
mentioned
clicking.
gathered, let's try to put together what happened to the Franklin
That's not what I'm
expedition.
clicking yet
Well, as I
again.
mentioned earlier, the last time they were spotted was in July
Does it
of
think it's behind me?
1845. From that location at Baffin Bay to the campsite that was found at Beachy Island, it seems that everything was going well up until that
Oh,
point.
no,
As
it's
I mentioned earlier,
bugged.
it was expected that whenever
It's not
winter
looking
hit,
at, like,
they
the
would be
actual
stuck for
spot.
several months. And during this time, it seems that they were stuck at Beachy Island,
God
which would
damn it.
explain the 3 bodies and hundreds of food cans which were found thrown out on shore. For reasons I'll explain later, it was determined that these 3 had died of pneumonia, while tragic, not
See, it thinks it's in the
unexpected.
wrong spot.
However,
God
it
damn
seems
it.
that perhaps their ship was moving too slow, and they were there until the next winter, where the ship was stuck off the northern coast of King William's Island in September of 1846.
See, it looks in the, like, opposite
Remember
direction
how
of where
way
it
earlier
is.
in the video I mentioned that these were 2 naval warships which were heavily kitted out with all of this cool material to make sure that they stay running? Well, something that wasn't considered
God
until
damn
years
it.
later is the incredible weight that these ships had. See, whenever you're trying to break
Do it again.
through the ice to get around the Arctic, speed is a priority. And while these
Oh,
ships
God, that
certainly
scared me for a
had
second. This is just a menu.
fortifications
This is
to
just a
make sure
menu.
they didn't sink if they ran into any ice,
Hey, the head pat's
that
gone.
also weighed them down.
Hopefully I just
ensuring
have
that
to
they
do
weren't
the,
quick enough to break through it.
the map
And remember
again?
that
Okay,
steam
that's
engine
fine.
I mentioned earlier, the one that came from a locomotive and was put into the ships? Well, while a fantastic idea at the time, if these things were opened up 100%, they could go
This one
a
should be completely
speed
off
of
already.
7.4 kilometers an hour, or about 4.5 miles per hour. Again, not enough to get any substantial distance through frozen
Okay.
water. It wasn't uncommon for ships at the time to get ice bound up in the propellers of
good.
their system, to which someone would have to do
Turn
the
on 2 and
nauseating
3
process of putting
on
on a diving suit, going
Mars.
overboard, and breaking it off with a stick. So perhaps a combination of the
Right, that's
water
Mercury, I
freezing and
think.
it taking too long to break the ice in
Wait, I already
front of
forgot
them,
which one it was. 2 and 3.
often done
Okay.
with long sticks and explosives, as well as ice itself freezing to the ship and propeller, they didn't travel as fast as they thought they could. Another factor is the navigation of the expedition itself. While this wasn't stated on the note and there
4
were no
for
survivors to say for sure, it's quite possible that they quite literally took the wrong turn. See, at the time it was mapped and documented to go north through Baffin Bay and then come south to the north
None
of King
on
William's Island.
you.
However, at the time, and part of the reason the expedition existed, it wasn't known if it was best to take
You're
a more
good.
westward or eastward route through the channels to get out.
2,
From
3,
what we know now,
4.
it seems that they took a route into the more open and mainland line of water, which turned out to be a problem because, as we also know, Al,
2, 3,
that is
4.
a primary route for polar ice caps to break off and then flow through the mainstream. Meaning if they took the other term, they could go through what is now the Simpson Strait and make their voyage into Asia, but instead they went the other route, which,
3.
while manageable today, would have been impossible at the time. Regardless, the True was trapped off the coast of King William Island in 1846, and it was here that the note was placed inside of the cairn that I mentioned earlier. Also, I'm going to assume you can't read latitude and longitude, and
There we
if
go.
you can, you're better at this than I am, so I'm just going
The
to say
fuck is
location
that?
whenever we get to them. HMS ship Erebus and Terror wintered in the ice in location, having wintered in 1846 to 1847 at Beechy Island in location, after having
Oh.
ascended Wellington Channel to location and returned by the west side of Cornwallis Island, Sir John Franklin commanding the expedition. All well. So as mentioned there, this was written and very legible at Beechy Island, the first location where the ship was frozen. This second note is written in the margins around the paper and seems to be in much more distress. HMS ships Terror and Erebus were deserted on the 22nd of April, leagues north and northwest of this, having been beset since the 12th
the amount of space they put onto that note. What are you doing, RW? How you doing? What are we watching? We're watching the Franklin expedition.
105 souls under the command of Captain
This is the Franklin expedition.
Crozier. Before the note goes on to describe
expedition
the
that
manner
mysteriously
in which
all
this note was
died
retrieved, and
on
it
their
then
way
says,
to Asia
Sir
via
John
the
Franklin
Antarctic
died
passages.
on June the 11th of 1847, and the total loss by deaths in the expedition has been to this date 9 officers and 15 men. Signed by James Fitzjames, captain of the HMS Erebus. The note itself was signed by Crozier and Fitzjames, and as mentioned indicated that Franklin had died on June the 11th, and as mentioned at the end, that made Fitzjames the
New
new
game in
captain of the
2024
Erebus.
sequel. Oh,
So
Atlas.
what went wrong?
Oh, okay.
Yes, they were stuck frozen in the water a second time, but the ship had rations for 3 years and up to 5 if they strung out their meals.
All right.
Well, remember that little detail I mentioned in the beginning that 7
Game
weeks
gets to go
before they were
bye-bye?
set to launch, the lowest bidder made 8,000 cans of food. Whenever these tins of cans were found on Beechy
We will
Island,
swap really
they
quickly.
were examined and had the worst sealing job you could imagine. For one, the soldering to close off the can itself was done with molten lead. And on the inside
Where do they get the
of
lead?
food, there was liquid lead that had been hardened.
Hold on, we're just gonna swap to the other screen.
Which, you know, probably isn't good for you. But all of the cans showed signs
then I can get you all the captions now.
erosion and improper
This is where our
sealing,
full focus
and
is
one
now.
of the primary theories of what went wrong
Either a movie or
is that
miniseries.
the
Yeah, it
food
was
spoiled.
the
Furthermore,
Terror.
if that canned food went bad, then the men would be subject
It was
to
the
scurvy.
Terror. He talked about it
Now,
earlier.
most ships at the time, including the Terror and Erebus, would keep lemon juice in bottles to drink to keep scurvy away. However, the effective time of lemon juice is about a year, and as established, it had been 2 years at this point.
Okay.
And the lead poisoning of the foods and everything combined, there was a lot of different ways these guys could have died. And I'll continue to
Lead
stake my
poisoning,
flag
everybody's
on the idea
favorite.
that the food
At
went
least it
bad
wasn't
because of
asbestos
the final note
yet.
written in the margin of the page by Crozier, which says, "And start on tomorrow, the 26th, for Back's Fish River." This lines up with what I mentioned earlier of several relics being found on the way to Back's Fish River.
Okay,
So if the
okay, so
food
they
was
did
still
try to make
good,
it to Back's Fish
they would
River.
have stayed on the ships because the ships were made to get frozen in ice and then keep going. But if it's bad, then the guys had no other option than to walk across
God damn it, not the point when I like crunched the can in my mouth.
Which King William's Island is an empty island full of rocks and ice. So very inhospitable.
Is it a place for
this
birds?
also explains
Sometimes it's a
why
place
there
for
was
birds.
a lifeboat found full of supplies.
You heard
on
me,
the west
Pyre.
coast of
I
the
crushed a
island.
can in my
From
mouth.
piecing together everything,
That's
it
what that
seems
quote's
that
from.
Crozier, now acting as commander of the survivors of the ship, brought at least one lifeboat and
That is
filled it with
exactly
several
what
of the
that would be.
supplies the men would
I forget
need.
what the drink was,
Possibly
though.
any food that was still good,
Celsius,
and
maybe?
at least
Something like that? I don't
initially,
remember exactly.
Some supplies for morale, like combs and spoons and
'Cause I don't
extra
usually drink
boots,
things out of a
etc.
can.
The purpose of the lifeboat being, for one, to carry the supplies, but also so that whenever they get to Back's Fish River, they can then get in the
Carrie, why are you
lifeboat
the way that you
and
are?
take it down the river because
Why are you
the
the way that you
only
are?
known settlement
I suffer?
was several hundred miles
Why must
down
I
Back's
suffer?
River. Meaning that even if they did get all the way to King William's Island, they would then have to continue paddling downriver for potentially months.
You love me
But
and I
was
know it?
either
Shut
that
up.
Or starve to death on the boat. So as mentioned,
I
in the
can't.
letter,
I can't do
it
like
was set fingy
fingy
out on
touchies or
April
anything with this
26th.
model.
The
Shut up.
distance from where the letter was found to
You
the
can't
mouth
see it,
of
but
the
I'm fingy
river
touching.
was about 248 miles. One group of natives said they came across the men.
I left to
during
get
this
water.
time
That was
who
from the
asked them for
previous,
food, but
quote.
The natives themselves had to take care of their own and weren't able to offer much, but that they did witness about 40 men walking across King William's Island south towards Canada. And from there, I wish there was more to say, but it seems the Franklin expedition, at least officially,
Vanished
off
history.
the face of the earth. I'm going to talk about some of the modern findings of this case.
Who knows?
But there's a couple things I
Who
want to mention
knows?
that are my favorite details of the story. The last relics that can be positively ID'd.
Propagooning, you damn right, boys. Damn right. Real propagooning. Real propagooning up in here.
Of the river. Meaning
all those
that
Wendigooners
men
getting
had
us
made
real
it some
antsy.
200
Getting a little too
miles
comfortable.
across King William's Island. However, remember
But I'm also
how
getting
earlier
hungry.
I stated there were several
getting real
natives who said
hungry.
they came into contact with 2 men? Well, that was in Canada. As a matter of fact,
For
about
such a video, it's fine.
250
It's fine.
miles south of the northern border of Canada in 1858. And when shown pictures, all of the natives identified one of the men as
The
Captain
captain?
Crozier of the HMS Terror. If this were to be
Ooh.
true, that would mean that Captain Crozier and one other man
Why can't they
had
use the same
successfully
word?
walked about
Because one's a
600
liquid, the other one
miles
is a reaction.
over the course of 12 years. In
Different
1948,
things.
around the same region of northern Canada, there was another cairn very similar to the one found
And
on
resistant
Beechey
and
Island.
retardant are
And
not the
inside
same
of
thing.
the cairn was a wooden box that was put together with dovetail wood, which was a practice in mid-1800s England. Sadly and very
Being
frustratingly,
a
the
resistant
box
does
was
not
destroyed
weaken
and
the
no
thing.
note
Being a
was
retardant
found.
does
But
weaken
if that
whatever
was
it is
set
a
up by
retardant of. In
Crozier
this case,
and the
fire.
other
I
man,
hate that word. I
that
hate
would
saying it. I'm going to
confirm
stop
the
saying it.
idea that they had
It's a
walked
little
for
too
over
close.
a decade, 600 miles through the Arctic. The
It
other
dampens
detail I wanna
something. There we go.
mention
It's
is that
basically a
of the
dampener. That's a better
expedition's
word.
mission itself.
Water
Remember I said there were
resistant is
remnants
it's
of the crew
resisting
found
whatever
on
the thing is.
western
You can have
side
something that's
of
flame
King William's
resistant, but that
Island.
doesn't mean
Well,
it's
from the coast of
a
King
flame
William's
dampener
Island,
or
you
anything.
can actually see the Simpson Strait, which is the opening that was later discovered to be the pathway through the Arctic to Asia. And it's
Would have been
incredibly
the faster
possible
pathway.
that was the last thing in the men's mind at the time. But I like to think at some point the captain
No,
and the men
Jamie,
looked
we're not
over
having that
and
conversation.
saw
It's
the
spicy
entry
air
to
dampener.
the
Oh my
Eastern
God.
world and realized that
It's
even if just to
fire is
themselves,
not
they
spicy
discovered
air.
it. As a matter of fact, England agrees with me too, but let's talk about some of the more modern discoveries. In 1981,
Oh?
a researcher by the name of Owen Beatty was determined to find out what happened to the Franklin expedition. Beatty and his research team explored the region of King William's Island where the
Got
lifeboat
nosy.
was previously identified. Between that
I was
location
gonna say,
and
this is where they found the
Victory Point,
bodies, wasn't
original
it?
area that the letter was found, they found several
Because I
bones
want to say
of
I've
the
seen
crewmen.
pictures of
Upon
like a
examination,
well-preserved
the bones
body
had
from that
pitting
expedition
was
that they
consistent
found.
with cases of scurvy,
Fire taste test
as
win?
well as
Never.
lead concentrations 10
At least not
times
until I
over
figure
the
out how to do
regular
fire
amount.
swallowing.
So the theory of the food being bad is pretty well supported. However,
pepper
the
spray
other
is
thing
spicy
that
air.
they found on the bones was several scratches and knife cuts, indicating that there was most likely some form of cannibalism present. Furthermore, at several of the makeshift campsites they found.
All right,
along
Chad,
the
are we
way,
getting pizza
there
today?
were
Is that the goal?
bones
Are we
that
getting
seemed to
pizza
be
and we're gonna
polished
marathon
by the inside of a pot, which
at
is
least
seen
the
in
first
cases
season of A
extreme
Handmaid's Tale
cannibalism,
tonight?
or I should say, when cannibalism's needed in extremes.
I'm gonna make
and
the Markiplier
people
face
tried
when you
to
do
boil
give
the marrow
Gannon
out
more
of the
feed
bones,
materials. No.
indicating how hungry these men were. All in all, from 1981 to 1982, Beatty found the remains of 6 to 14 people. To confirm his theories about the death
Out of
the
curiosity,
men,
because I know we
he
have a
needed
bunch
another
of
example of
European
time.
folks in
And
here
lo and
today
behold, perfect
because it's early on a
examples
Saturday.
existed in the graves
And y'all
on
probably
Beechey
may
Island.
want to watch the
I'm
show.
going to show what
Would we
could be
rather end it
considered
a
to
little
many
earlier,
disturbing
like
imagery,
say 30
but
minutes?
I feel this is important
And we can
for
wrap it up.
historical
I can go get some
connotation
food
and
because
also
I'm
the
hungry
science
and I
aspect
buy
of it,
food. Of course, I
and
mean
it's for a
pizza.
purely
Gonna go get some
educational
pizza.
sense. However, understand
And then
if
I
you
can
don't
come
like
back and we
that,
can
there
get
will be a
set up
timestamp
before
in the
7 o'clock.
description to skip past these pictures, but these are the images
Then
of the
we
bodies
have-
exhumed from Beechey Island.
Oh my
Despite the
God, not
ghastly look, the
Sarai.
tissues were in near perfect condition, which allowed
What the fuck? Did you
very
just call
accurate
another VTuber a
samples
bootleg
of the
Sarai?
bodies as well as the cause
That's the
of death
picture I
to be
remember.
determined. And also,
Hi,
while
Captain.
this is mostly an informational explanation that I'm giving
Hi,
you,
Captain.
I don't want to gloss over
Yeah, these are the
horror
pictures I
and
remember.
simultaneous wonder of people being consumed by the elements, yet in death being completely consecrated by them. And there's such a, it's a vicious
Good point.
poetry to it. It was found on these bodies that the cause of death was in fact pneumonia, supporting the theory people at the time had that everything went wrong the winter after Beechey Island. From 1984 to 1993, over 400
Did Ganon
bones
just
were
commit a
found
cardinal sin?
along King William's Island. And
Wow,
many
the
of
picture,
which
yeah, the
indicated
pictures are
signs
not
of
flattering,
cannibalism.
but they are dead,
Perhaps
so it doesn't
most
matter.
tragic was the feature
When I
that
feel
the
something
hands,
crunchy in my
feet,
burger,
and
when I
head
find something
also had
crunchy
be
in something that's
removed
not
before
supposed to
the
be
cannibal
crunchy.
acts were taken, as if the most human parts of their friends they wanted to remove before committing what was to them such a horrendous act. See, while the people
They
of
took the
Britain
eyes
thought it was
out? Is
such
that
a
what he
horrible,
said?
atrocious action that no sane man would ever
Have fun,
commit,
Doc. Later.
the people who were
Also,
a
poor
part
practice.
of
Tell
this
people you're going to do
expedition
something like that, though.
also had
Say you're
those
going to
same
start
ideas.
working or you're busy.
And
That's usually
while
what
they
I
had to
do.
do it to survive,
It's time
the
to get busy.
ghastly nature that the people back home felt of them, I'm sure they felt 10 times over. So you're probably asking yourself the question, well, if they found all of the bodies of the men, what about the
Oh
ships
my God.
themselves? Well, over the years, there were several
All right.
sonar studies and helicopter missions to try to see if they could find any remains of the ship. Well, finally, on September the 9th of 2014, the Erebus was
I have
found
regrets. I have
sunken
regrets
under
going
just
to
36
check something out of
feet of
curiosity.
water, not far from the northernmost
The
point
mistakes
of
have been
King
made.
William's
Mistakes
Island,
indeed have been
specifically at the
made.
location known as Wilmot and Crampton Bay. The ship had simply sunk from years of disrepair, and after drones and cameras went through the ship, it seems
Oh.
to be in completely idyllic condition. As a matter of fact, the
Really?
Erebus is still in its exhuming process, and it's currently said that the
Wait,
first 65
still in an idyllic
artifacts
form?
that are
That's
recovered
amazing.
will go back to England, and the remaining artifacts will belong to Canada and the Inuit people. And then on
Good.
September
At
12th,
least they
of
get something.
2016, the
Y'all
Terror
came
was
over here,
found
y'all left y'all
much
shit.
farther
That's
to the
litter, and that
south.
shit's
As
ours.
a matter of fact, out of complete coincidence, the Terror was found in a place known as Terror Bay. Perhaps most bizarrely about the
Was
Terror,
it a
other than the
coincidence?
fact that it sank in a place named Terror, was the fact that its
Until morale
anchors were
improves?
still
God damn
up
it,
and
Samuel.
locked. See, whenever these ships got frozen,
Thank you
they
for the
would
head
drop their
pass. Later,
anchors
Doc.
to make sure that they didn't float away or randomly tilt if the ice were to crack or thaw out. Furthermore, it was much further away and seemed to follow a trajectory as if it was trying to get back to the mainland. The common historical belief is either that someone went back after they were walking across the island to try to pilot the Terror to get it towards land, or a few people stayed on the ship who there was enough food to supply for, but again, like the rest of the crew,
okay.
whenever they made their voyage, they met the same fate.
Rather
In
than the Terror
2018,
itself
the
just
Terror
drip.
was
Wow,
examined
the water
with
is so
about
fucking
80
clear
feet
up there,
of water,
though.
and seems to be like the Erebus in perfect
Holy
condition,
shit.
frozen in time under the waves. And there are still discoveries of the Franklin expedition happening to this day. Not only are they
Oh,
still
yeah,
in the
I'm not
process
surprised
of
at fucking
breaking
all.
up artifacts from
Because,
the
I
wrecked
mean,
ship, but in
exploration
May
of the Arctic
2021,
region is
one
something
of
new in the
bodies
last, like,
that
50
were
years.
found was positively ID'd as John Gregory.
Baja Blast
because his
Ocean?
great,
Oh,
great,
God
great,
damn it.
great grandson living in South Africa
Give me back my
provided a
Cage
DNA
Mobile. Cage
sample,
Mobile.
which gave a positive ID. One of the things I love about
Does
this
it mean
story
I'd left
so
it
much
there? Then why is it in my
despite the
Lost
fact
and
that
Found
it was
canon?
over
Why
a
is it in my Lost
century
and Found?
a half ago, the mystery is still continuing to be unsolved and unraveled each day. Another tragic beauty of the story
Unsolved.
is that in 1850,
Unsolved.
one of the ships
Hi,
sent
Samuel.
to
Thank you for the
search
3-stream
for the
streak.
Franklin
Welcome in.
expedition, known as the
You've been here. Why did I
HMS
say that?
Investigator,
Stop the
I guess that was
licking!
the name of it, seemed to be right on the path of the expedition, only they took the other route, meaning that they found the path from Europe to Asia. To which the investigator also got trapped in the ice and needed rescued from the Resolute, which, as I mentioned earlier, also got trapped in the ice. But that's not important. They found the path. And that path, which was later discovered as the Simpson Strait, is the one I mentioned earlier that perhaps the final members
How
of
did
the
you
crew
lose your cage cannon?
realized
Go
they
on.
had
I'll wait for you to
discovered.
explain
The
it.
captain who discovered that the Simpson Strait
It's
was
canon now. We
indeed the
knew that.
passage
No,
from
he just
Europe
likes.
to
It's like
Asia,
taking a dog's
agreed with
house.
the
They get
Admiralty
upset. Okay.
that the Franklin
gets
expedition
upset.
should be named as the discoverers of it. And in 1860, the British government honored Captain Franklin as being the discoverer of the passage between worlds, and Lady Franklin was there to accept the medal in his honor. To
Aw.
which they commemorated a statue of John Franklin, to which the plaque simply reads, "They forged the last link with their lives." And with that ends the story of the HMS Erebus, the
I
HMS
suppose that's
Terror,
fair.
and the tragic
Oh, wait, wrong
victory
cage.
of the Franklin expedition.
But good
I've
enough?
always enjoyed stories of the last days of the Crusades of Adventure.
I think we're misunderstanding each other here, but I'm not
journeys
gonna.
of
I'm not
man
gonna.
and all
I don't
of
have the
that,
head
and, like,
clarity
the
to
ferocity
properly
and
explain
just
this
the
to you, Carrie.
viciousness
Get your
of
mind out
nature
the fucking
is all
gutter.
around this story. and it's anyone's guess what to happen. In the series The Terror, they talk about how the polar bears could have killed them, or
That's
how
true.
lead
Polar bears
poisoning
actually
can
don't
lead to
have any,
illusions of the mind, and they could have went
what's the
paranoid.
word?
And there's
Like
all sorts of
favorite,
manner of things that could have led to
prey,
their
let
end.
alone even
Or,
predators
as
that usually
Vin at the
can
time
scare
would
them
say,
off.
it seems like
So
the
if
whole
you ever
world is
see a
trying to
polar
kill
bear,
you
it's time to
whenever you're out
run
there,
because they
and
already
every
see
single day
you
is a
as
fight for
food.
survival. But in
You are
spite of
food.
all of that, because of what they did,
Yes, Carrie.
it led to the
Yes.
discovery
I'm
of
taking
the
your bet.
passage.
I'm claiming it if you try to throw me off.
In other reports that were written around the time, there were people who
All
said
right,
it was
Gannon, but I don't think you're
and
big enough to not
by
suffocate
the
under my
logical
massive
sense,
duvet.
It was. It took that much
I have a
effort to
heavy
get
as
up
shit
there.
duvet.
There was no way you were going to send a bunch of merchant
Not even
vessels
weighted,
back
it's
and
just
forth
fucking
all around
heavy.
the year. And the
Polar bears
Suez
enjoy
Canal eventually
Coca-Cola?
had to
No.
be invented to deal with that. And
Not
blah,
if I eat
blah,
the polar
blah.
bear first.
But
You're big enough to eat the polar bear.
in their
Not everybody
conquest
else
for
is.
that, to put the last piece of the map
Not everybody's as
together
tall as either of
to
us.
decide or figure out the geography of the whole world, they managed to succeed. One report, I forget who, I've been doing.
You don't have a large caliber rifle, you're dead.
One
Yeah.
report
Yep.
said that more was discovered in the search for them than their one ship ever.
What
could
else
have
is
put
heavy,
together.
Gannon?
And that's what I mean by the tragic victory. In the end, they accomplished what they had set out to do. And I love the idea of Crozier
Location
walking
of
12
camps,
years
okay.
for the HMS Terror. And just, it's so good. It's poetry. It's poetry in the real world. And I love it. And hopefully you at
Suspected
least
location
liked it
of
a
one
little
ship,
bit.
but
As
they
you can
didn't
tell, I
find
like this
the
stuff.
either of the
And
ships
hopefully
there,
you
right?
liked it too. And thank you for watching.
Oh, no, bro.
Man, like, I love
Do you
doing
have
the
a pet?
long
Bring out
dives
the
into
pet.
ARGs.
Me? I
and,
have.
you know,
Do you
horror
mean a
series,
character pet
and what else do I
or
do? Conspiracy theories and
Coco?
all this stuff.
My
But,
actual dog?
Man, like this reminds me of Chris McCandles or McCandless.
Welcome in, Sav. How are you
I
doing?
pronounced it wrong through that whole video, but this reminds me of stories like that. Just stories of ferocity, of people braving the wilderness.
Reminds me, Coco
and,
hasn't come in
man, I
here.
love this stuff.
And it is
Anyway,
past
I've
her
talked
food
about it
time.
enough. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around this long into my mad ramblings.
The weight
I
of the
hope that
sins
you
on one's
enjoy. I
back.
love this
Ooh,
stuff. I also hope that the camera setup
Very
worked
true.
out.
Very
as well, and
true.
This microphone, as you can
Go
click
on,
Blue
chat.
Yeti's
Tell
back.
me,
I found
how
a way to
much do
sync
your
this to the
sins weigh you
camera,
down?
And I think I found a way to make
What
the
happened to
lighting
Coco?
quit flashing all
Coco!
the time. I didn't even notice it till people pointed it out. I'm awful with technology. But hopefully this was manageable. Hopefully
She was in her
it
kennel.
looks
I just
okay.
heard her get out of it.
I'm learning as
What are
I
you
go.
doing?
I've also been recording all night.
Come here.
Because I keep,
Why don't you
like,
plop
what you
down
don't
on
know
me?
is all the gaps
Stinker.
I take in between and going over my notes and back and forth.
Gannon,
And I started recording around
show my mom. Gannon, why are you dropping gifts in
5,
chat?
6 a.m. and it's
Gannon,
9
you should
a.m.
know
right
better.
now.
Follow the rules.
I have no idea.
Delete
if
it!
this is cut down to, it's also funny
Not
'cause I
muscle
planned
man
for this
bad.
to be a
Yeah.
short video, and now it's
Yep.
not at all.
My
And
mom.
my hair's all over the place, and I'm losing my mind. So it's par for the course.
Explode, Gannon.
Guys,
I'll
for
do it
sticking around this
myself.
long. I appreciate it.
Gotta follow the
Trying
rules,
to think if
Gannon.
there's any
You didn't ask for permission to post
well,
the
for
link, and
one,
it wasn't a
thank you
clip.
so much to
Therefore,
my
it's not following the
subscribers.
rules.
Still over 1 million, still losing my mind at that. We're at like 1.04, something like ridiculous. Like already another 40,000 people since 1 million. I love you guys. You're fantastic.
He's already at like, I think it's like 3.7 million.
Actually, hold on. I need to show this on camera. So my girlfriend Kayla, bless her heart,
What is
threw
that?
me a party
What the
whenever
fuck?
I
Is that
hit
a
1 million
balloon?
Subs.
That a
But
cat
obviously
balloon?
There's no happy 1 million subscriber balloon at Walmart, so she got me this. That
Cue
says
the
Cue
cat Fetty.
I had to share this information with you. You're welcome. I'm losing my mind. Right
Not
now.
wait. As in, how many grandfather clocks do you have
I
strapped
totally
to your
forgot
back
what I was
as
gonna
you
say.
repent
That
to the
cat. I was
maddening
looking
ticking?
at the cat, and it took all of my.
Jesus Christ,
thinking away.
butterfly!
Oh,
That's
speaking
salute
of my
to you. I
girlfriend,
like that.
There is a
How
thing
many grandfather
happening
clocks do
soon
you
on
have
the second
strapped to your
channel.
back?
Link to that
as
will
you
be in the
repent
description
to
as
their
always.
maddening
I've
ticking?
renamed it from Windig Games to Windig
Is bringing out the balloons? It's a bunch of
because
red
there's gonna
balloons.
be new stuff happening over there. And if I'm
T-Dog.
not going to announce it yet till all the solids are down and I can make
All
it
right,
look
guys.
pretty. But yeah, check that out.
You know
in
what?
the description,
It's
so you'll
Saturday.
be the first
We're
to
gonna
know
do
it.
something after this. I'm gonna call it a little bit early. We're gonna go raid someone. And I'm gonna go grab pizza. And as soon as I am back, we will start it in the Discord. If you aren't in the Discord, I highly recommend joining it. We'll be in there marathoning at least the first season of A Handmaid's Tale. Who will I torment now? Ganon. It's okay. I know exactly who you're going to be able to go torment. Don't worry. There's no reason to be scared. It's a moth. We're going to go torment a moth. Let me see though. We are going to go with, we'll go with the wig. Actually, we're going to go with the bug because it's Finn. And we will be back tomorrow, guys. Noon CST. I'm going to try to get up super early to get to the gym so I don't have to like delay things. We're going to go with the bug though. And it's, we're going to go with, Mom said it's my turn. With the conspiracy, man. Let's go with that. Fuck it. Since we watched basically just Wendigoon today. All right, guys. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with a lot more energy. We're going to be hanging out in the Discord tonight, watching Handmaid's Tale. Until next time, though, guys, I will see you tomorrow, if not in the Discord. Stay good, stay out of trouble, and thank you for enjoying the marathon. Love you guys. Don't make it parasocial. Don't make it weird.